Today, the nerds talk about what we got from the Switch 2 announcement teaser, Sony cancels another live service, and Bungie is told no by Daddy. We've got all this and more. This is Nerds with Mics.
Absolute primo intro right there. You made it through one.
Yeah, I know. Finally. It only took me like 9 episodes. Anyways, welcome and hello to episode 168 of Nerds with Mics. I'm Travis.
I'm Jared.
And no Justin today. Justin is feeling a little under the weather. Must be all that snow that
we're
you
getting
all
to
have
the
gotten.
getting into the habit of like we used to, where just all three of us cannot be available for the same day. So
Yeah, I know, right? All right, so yeah, we have a jam-packed show today, but we're gonna have a good time. But before we get into news, because we got quite a bit of news today, and then we'll also get into kind of a mystery topic. We always like to start off by talking about what we've been up to, and I'll actually go first because I feel like because I usually do a lot of the driving and hosting that I always make somebody else go first. But I'll go first today. So for me, I have been still playing a ton of Path of Exile 2. I've been really having a good time with it. I've managed to actually continue to play the first character that I made. So I've been playing what
very
they call
surprising to hear that coming from you.
I know. So I've been actually playing a Lightning Deadeye. So it's a ranger, essentially that utilizes lightning and ice, and that's been really fun. Also finished the Silo finale, which I don't. Are you caught up, Jared?
Still not caught up.
Okay. Yeah. So finish the Silo finale. Watched the first episode of season 2 of Severance, which was good. Did you start?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, lots of controversy about that. I don't know if we really want to get into it. I mean, I know if Justin was here, he'd probably want to talk about it. But I know that there's a lot of rumors that the innie for what's Kelly R. What's the girl's name? The redheaded.
Helly, she's not severed this season. I'm
Yeah,
telling you right now, she's not severed.
yeah. There's a lot of theories that that her innie is actually her outie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, whenever she hit him with the line, "We're not the same." Well, I mean, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that she's not an any anymore."
Yeah. So that has been interesting. It was, I feel like, a really strong start. I do have to say though, like the cinematography at the very beginning of that episode when he's running down the hallways, that was some of the coolest cinematography I feel like I've ever seen. Ben Stiller knows what's up, I guess. I don't. It's hard to believe that show. When I think about that show, it's hard to believe that is a Ben Stiller joint, but it is. It's good.
When they had the pop-up thing in New York, he was standing there like a proud dad taking pictures on his phone. It was fantastic.
I know. And then then I saw that they actually posted that, like the actual result of that was pretty cool. But yeah, so they do that. I watched Craven, so you didn't have to. It was not great. I will say though, I was not able to finish Madam Web, but I was at least able to finish Craven. So there's that. If that tells you anything. That's not saying
that's
that
in the win column. That's in the win column.
Yeah. Also watched this. I think it actually won for Best Animated Movie at the Emmys. There's this movie called Flow. This animated movie. It's the main star is a cat, but it's one of those movies where there's no dialogue. But they do such a good job with storytelling that you know everything that's going on just because of how all the characters and stuff interact with each other, because it's nothing but animals. Essentially, the planet is flooding, and they're trying to survive. It's very interesting. If you get a chance to watch it, I would highly recommend watching it. It's very good. And then I went to my ENT, which is an ear, nose, and throat doctor today, because I've been having, I think I told you, starting back in November, my way back from West Virginia, I had issues with my ear. And I've continued to have issues with my ear. Well, I found out that essentially I have a tumor. I have a tumor in my ear. So I have to have that surgically removed. I was told that they drill through the behind my ear through my skull, and they have to basically, it's kind of like, if you've ever heard of the cyst, it's basically like a collection of like dead skin cells. Essentially, that's what's happening inside my ear, and it's causing it to press up against the temporal bones, which is messing with the pressure inside of my ear. So I have to go basically have surgery. I have to be on eardrops for 10 days, and after that, we discuss a plan. There might also need to be reconstructive surgery inside the ear. There's a chance that I may lose a little bit of hearing. I'm not real sure. So we'll see how that goes. But he said it's better to take action now versus wait because where that area is so close to the brain. I guess he said in third world countries, if people have that, and because it's not super painful, like it goes unchecked a lot of times, and it can actually grow into your brain and cause you to have seizures. So I'm not trying to have that. So which is probably the reason he was asking me if I was experiencing any dizziness or anything like that, which luckily I have not yet. So, yeah, I hope that. So, but at least I finally now have answers because it's been a lot of like going back and being on eardrops and, so I have realized, in a word of advice, for anybody that has to go to a hospital or doctor or anything, you gotta be your own advocate. You gotta continue to ask questions because, like, it was going very much the same way today where they're like, "Oh, well, it looks like it's healing fine, eardrops." Like, I was like, "Well, let me ask you a couple things that don't make sense to me," because I was actually seeing a different doctor because I was seeing a PA, and I had to have a CT scan done, and the PA basically rescheduled for me to come back and have the doctor review my CT for me. And it started to be like one of those visits, "Well, I don't really see much on the CT." I was like, "That we need to be concerned about." I was like, "Well," it's like, I just have so many questions. I was like, they told me initially that like, because I was bleeding from my ear, I was like, but you all have confirmed that I didn't rupture my eardrum. So I'm confused. If I didn't rupture my eardrum, how am I bleeding from my ear? They're like, well, when this happened, did you put your finger in your ear or an object and maybe that caused it? I was like, I've been told several times that maybe I just scraped the inside of my ear with my fingernail, whatever. I was like, but the amount of blood that came out of there doesn't make sense to me of me just simply scratching myself because by the time I got to urgent care after driving 3 hours of bleeding from my ear was so bloody that they couldn't even see my eardrum. So so once I said that, he, like, took me in a different room, put me under a microscope, and, like, cleaned it up a little bit because where you take eardrops, it kinda makes it cloudy and hard to see stuff anyways. But he was like, "Oh," and then he suctioned basically this scab out, and once he took the scab out, it revealed that spot that he was talking about. So, I at least got some answers today. And I'm sorry if any of that grossed you out, but I say that only to say be your own advocate. Like sometimes like you just like I just felt like I was getting passed to the next person, passed to the next person. But like in our healthcare system today, you just got to be your own advocate. So that's just word of advice. But that's all that I had going on in my week. I think my follow-up appointment to find out what I am going to do about surgery is on February 4th, which is right after I move into my new apartment. So that'll be interesting.
Perfect
But yeah,
timing, as always, with
yeah,
anything like that.
yeah, absolutely. So, but outside of that, that's all I've been up to. What about you, my guy?
So pretty interesting or pretty busy week for me. I guess interesting too. I'm not sure if anybody else will find my week interesting, but I finally took Travis's advice as well as the advice of a few other people. Finally started playing PoE 2, and I will say so far I've only got probably an hour into it because I started playing late last night. So far, big fan. Also playing a ranger like Travis, except I am doing a gas grenade build, which basically just lets you light your entire screen on fire. So that's fun.
I'm surprised you didn't do a mercenary for that build because crossbows and stuff. They
Had
had
me
you
do a
do a regular
ranger.
ranger. Oh, okay, interesting.
Other than that, like Travis said, Severance season two. If you watched like the interview, small little interview they did after, they said that season two is going to answer a lot of questions, and it picked up right where it left off. Story wise, yes, it did pick up right where it left off from season one, but I have so many more questions than I feel like got answered from
Time
season
wise,
one.
not really, because it was 5 months. They said, right?
Yeah, and they're like, oh yeah, it picks up right after, and I was like, I feel like a lot has happened.
Yeah, I also think, like we said, is it Helen?
Helly,
Helena?
Helly,
Helly.
Helly R.
I feel like if she is a plant, which makes the most sense because of them taking the cameras down and microphones and all that stuff. If you're gonna have somebody constantly around listening, then you don't need all that stuff. You know what I mean? Just to
Well,
help
you remember who
them
she
buy.
is, right? Like
Oh
who
yeah,
her?
for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
Other than that,
strong start though.
very strong start. Very much looking forward to how it goes for the rest of it. One thing I didn't have on my notes, Travis, and sorry, I'm gonna throw something else in there, but season finale of Landman actually happened last week before whenever you all recorded without me. Landman still fantastic. Still recommend it for a watch for everybody. Balatro. No, I've talked about that quite a bit. Still been playing it both on my phone and on my PC. They got me for that one twice. Um, a game I didn't think I would see myself playing after the bad taste I had in my mouth from it from whenever I originally tried, but I have been playing Cyberpunk again.
Oh,
And
let's go.
that game aged very well from where it first started. If you haven't played it since like original launch, I recommend giving it a chance, Travis. Looks
Okay.
fantastic on our monitors, just saying. Uh,
Nice. I like that.
Running everything on high and ultra settings, playing in 1440 ultra wide, I'm getting about 100 and some odd frames typically, so pretty game as well.
Okay.
The reason I couldn't record last week, I drove about 3 hours, got rid of my car to go back to a truck again because I missed I had a truck before, missed it, and then we got all this snow, and I was like, "Ah, I really missed my truck, and then found a great deal. So I drove up there with my wife and did that. Speaking of my wife, we're in the middle of our Friends rewatch, which I don't. Travis, are you the one that has a very strong dislike of Friends?
I wouldn't say it's a super strong dislike, but I don't like it. I don't watch it. Never seen it all the way through.
Fair
But
enough.
I don't hate on but I don't hate on people for liking the show. Like just like I like Seinfeld, but a lot of people don't like
I
Seinfeld.
love
You know what I
Seinfeld
mean?
as well. So,
Yeah.
then last thing is I added on what I've been up to just because it's something I definitely think I'll be talking about next week as well. But it's a game that, of all things, thank God TikTok's back because that's how I discover all my games that I want to play. But Jotun Slayer, it's $8 on Steam. It's just a roguelike where every time you level up, you pick a new ability, and it's just an arena roguelike. And it's actually I played the first arena right before we started recording, and it's so far big fan. There's like 5 different classes, 3 different difficulties for like 10 different maps. So, but other than that, besides work and all that stuff, it's pretty much all I've been up to.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I am slightly jealous that you got more snow. We got some snow today here in Atlanta, surprisingly, just kind of out of nowhere. I mean, it snowed for pretty heavy for about an hour. I mean, it didn't amount to a ton, but it was at least enough to cover the ground, which
I'm
was
already
nice.
over it. I tell you, you can just have some of ours and move it to Atlanta. I'm over it at this point. So,
Oh yeah, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Well, so one of the things that Justin and I talked about last week, because we're going to go ahead and get into some recent news, but we talked about how there was a rumor that Nintendo was going to announce their new Switch on the 16th of January, and I thought to myself, well, this may happen, this may not happen. I honestly didn't expect it to happen, especially when the leak came out that that's when they were going to do it. I thought, well, Nintendo is probably not going to do it now since people have obviously figured out that's when they're going to do it. But they stuck to the date and went ahead and had an announcement trailer. I want to say the trailer was about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Did you get a chance to watch the trailer?
yeah, I took a look at it.
Yeah, I gotta say, for me personally, I was until some of more of the hardware features come out, I was pretty let down because I felt like it was a lot more of the same. You know what I mean? Um,
It'll have to be
what
some
would
pretty significant hardware upgrades because, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, they definitely played it safe, it feels like.
yeah.
But when we get a little bit further in the specs, you've already heard me complaining about one of my biggest pet peeves with what they did with the Switch 2 thus far. So we'll talk about that
Yeah,
here in a
so
minute.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and cover what we know, and then Jared's going to talk about some of the more popular rumors floating around for hardware wise and maybe some video game releases. So, the release date they didn't quite provide. I know that the next Nintendo Direct is April 2nd. There was a accessory manufacturer that accidentally leaked a date for um, an accessory sometime in June, which would line up if you're going to have maybe an April kind of announcement of more details. That would give you a couple. months to ramp up before release. So June timeframe does make sense. The console size of the Switch 2 is larger than the original Switch. We saw more detachable Joy Cons. However, this time around, it's going to feature a magnetic snap-on system, kind of similar to what you've seen with some of the Apple products, with like the MagSafe adapters that go to the back of your phone, or the MagSafe charger that goes into the side of your MacBook. It'll be similar to that, but so they're going to get rid of the rail system. But what concerns me, I like the idea of the magnets. What concerns me is that little part that has to plug into the controller. It sticks out a little bit, not outside of the actual screen itself, but my concern is how easily that could snap off. Is my concern.
It's like you and I were
Um,
talking about that before we started recording, and that's I mean, 100% honesty. Like Switches are popular with everybody, but they're also very popular with children. And I
yeah,
think making like an extra piece to break may not have been the best decision, or maybe it could because maybe that's what.
yeah.
Maybe.
Planned
But
obsolescence and replacement. Who knows?
so basically, what we're saying with this is buy the warranty wherever you get it from. Buy the
Yeah, for
warranty.
sure. I'm a believer in warranties, especially on things that are portable. You know what I mean?
Handhelds.
Yeah, for sure. I had my ROG Ally replaced out because of accidental damage. You know what I mean? So would recommend.
Well, I dropped
Um,
and shattered my Switch and then got an OLED, so
oh yeah, couldn't have happened at a better time. There's
right?
got to be a better way. Anyways, uh, Joy-Con functionality. So new sensors enable mouse-like functionalities, and a new button on the right Joy-Con. So this is kind of similar to what you've seen with the Legion Go, where you can use the bottom of it as a bottom of the controller is kind of like a mouse. So you can use it for first-person shooters and stuff like that. Also, connectivity improvements. So two USB-C ports were added to enhance connectivity, which is nice. So if you're going to be using any accessories, you still have the ability to charge your Switch through a secondary port, which is nice. They did talk about, and I know this is a big concern on a lot of people's minds, because Nintendo is really bad about just shutting down like app stores that you may have had purchases in. But as far as game compatibility, it will be backwards compatible with both physical and digital Switch games, as well as Switch 2 exclusives. So I'm wondering how much farther that will end up going back. But yes, anything Switch related now, it will be compatible not only physically, but also digitally as well, which is nice to hear. And then they revealed a new game. They revealed a new Mario Kart, which I'm really surprised it's a new one. I honestly just expected another refresh of the last one. You know what I mean? So Mario Kart 9 was shown in a video, which I know that the art style has changed a little bit. It looks a little bit more like the Mario art style of Mario Wonder, which is the new Mario game that's out. Um, I also mentioned that the Switch 2 Direct is scheduled for April 2nd, 2025. This is where we're going to find more details about the console and what games are expected to launch, or when the handheld releases. Um, they are selling tickets right now for you to be able to have a hands-on experience at these events. I think they're going to have 3 pop-ups. I want to say somewhere in Los Angeles, somewhere in Chicago, and somewhere in New York City. I think it's at their flagship stores, I believe. Um, but we want to get into prediction of the hardware, because they have officially announced, right, that it is not an OLED display, which is
Yep, it
super
is
surprising.
confirmed LCD display, but like I was saying to you, it would not surprise me if we get the Switch 2 launch, and then if it is a June launch, maybe like fall closer to like the holidays, we get a Switch 2 OLED announcement. But I
And what's
just,
crazy to me is with the stand. I'll let you get into these, but one thing I will say about the screen is handhelds are now more popular than they've probably ever been, outside of obviously when we had PSPs and DSs and stuff like that. But when you have these manufacturers, now of course these manufacturers typically are more expensive than what like a Switch is, but you're talking OLED displays, you're talking IPS displays, you're talking displays that are have variable refresh rates. Some of these screens go up to 144 hertz, and then you have the Switch coming out, and you're talking LCD. And I'm assuming, did they talk about the resolution of the display?
So nothing about resolution, and there's actually a comment on the bottom of this article that I'm getting this information from, but it says that the rumors are an 8-inch LCD screen, but there was no confirmation from Nintendo if it's going to be an LCD or an OLED screen. So there's still hope, but the rumor mill is usually pretty accurate and stuff like this.
I
So
just I just feel like coming off of your last Switch where you refreshed it to have OLED, I don't know why you would want to take a step backwards.
the only thing I could think is if they're doing it from a price point play, like if because we haven't got, I don't, at least I'm not, don't think so, but I don't think we've got a confirmation about price yet.
Yeah,
So if they're coming, I mean, if it comes in lower, like even like Switch, what's it called, the Switch Lite, like if they can make the actual Switch around the same price as Switch Lite, because I think it's only a $50 difference or something like that. But that I could see as being a decent reason, but it's one of those things we'll just have to wait and see.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So what other rumors do we have?
So right now, I clicked a link and it took me off the page. So let me find it here again. So right now, in terms of unconfirmed raw stats, the latest rumors for the Nintendo Switch specs could be a custom NVIDIA GPU, well, CP, just chip, because I assume it's just an onboard for both.
Oh yeah, because Nvidia did announce their new mobile chip for smaller handheld devices, but I don't think
Hmm.
we've seen what it's going to be in yet.
I don't think so either. 8 gigabytes of DDR5 memory,
A whole, wait, you said 8 or 16?
whole eight.
Oh, brother.
64 gigs of built-in storage, which that's not surprising, especially if we keep the micro SD card port.
Yeah,
Uh, DLSS 2 support, which would make sense if it's the NVIDIA chip that they're
yeah,
going with. FSR 3 support, 8-inch LCD display, and improved battery life. But again, all those are just what we've heard so far, and there's not a whole lot of information out there aside from that, except there is a tab on here for price. First official look at the two. Rumors that the Switch 2 will come in around the $400 price point.
it's pretty high.
That's
They better knock
$50 higher than the Switch OLED.
they better knock my socks off. Now, I will tell you though, if it is an Nvidia chip that will be capable of outputting 4K to my TV, that I would be interested in.
And I think that's what, honestly, Nvidia's just been crushing it this year. If it's something that can actually do that, it's gonna be nuts. And I'm
Yeah.
right there with you. Like maybe I could get past not having an OLED display on the portable if I can output at 4K on my TV, but it's going to be one of those things that every time I play it in handheld mode, I'm just going to be like, it's not as good.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some good non-OLED displays on handhelds. Like, for instance, the Legion Go is an IPS display that's LCD, but it looks really good. But I just don't have a whole lot of faith in what their display will look like. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
And again, we
Yeah,
could be pleasantly surprised. Like it could be one of the, like we'll sit here and talk about it, and
because
I will
yeah,
happily admit I'm wrong if I'm wrong. So
I want to be wrong, to be honest with you, but I can't
yeah,
imagine they're going to come out with two different SKUs. The only difference between the two is going to be the screen.
because I feel like that
Yeah.
would make it easier on them as well if they would just kind of because I mean, if I had to guess, like of course I haven't seen the sales numbers, but if I had to guess, the OLED has probably been a more popular model since its release, but I could be
Yeah.
wrong because of just the price point too. Um, but I mean, I'll be interested to see what it looks like. It's just I don't know if it'll be one of those things that I'll upgrade immediately unless something drastic happens or they do something with it that like if that Nvidia chip it really does make a huge difference, then I'll probably make the switch. But
Yeah.
pun
No
intended.
pun intended. No pun intended.
Oh no, it wasn't intended. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was an
Yeah, yeah.
accidental pun.
Accidental pun. I will ask you since you weren't here to be part of the conversation last week. Last week Jared and I talked about the importance of
You and
third
Jared
party
did?
type. No, sorry, me and Justin. Justin and I apologize. But we talked about like, is it important for the Switch 2 to get third party support? Because obviously with Switch 1 now, there's not a ton of third party titles that want to come to the Switch, right? Like when you think about some of the more demanding games, right? Do you think it's important for the Switch 2 to be able to be a destination where a lot of these, AAA third-party titles want to come?
Personally, I don't because I'm not gonna buy like so let's imagine, right? Red Dead Redemption 3 comes out. Like I'm not gonna buy Red Dead 3 on my Switch, right? I'm gonna buy Red Dead 3 on either my PS5 or my PC. And like if I'm thinking I want to sit down and play my Switch, or if I'm traveling somewhere and I want to just have a game to play, I'm completely fine with playing Pokemon or Mario, something like that.
Yeah,
And really that's all I need. Like I might be in the unpopular opinion realm there, but if I'm going to play a AAA title, I'm going to want to play it on my PC. And would it be nice to play it traveling? Sure, but I still don't think you're going to get the same experience on a handheld as what you would get on a PC.
right, right. No, I agree. Yeah. I will say it would be nice though for them to make a console where those third-party developers don't feel like they have to make a ton of sacrifices to make it work on the Switch. That's my biggest thing.
That's fair. And just like Hogwarts Legacy, for example, it came out on PC and Switch. Two completely different games. I'm not sure if you've seen any gameplay on the Switch, but that
It was impressive what they were able to do, but there's a couple of other games that are a little bit more demanding that did not look great coming to the Switch, like Divinity Original Sin 2.
yep.
Not a great experience on the Switch. But yeah. All right. Well, anything else to add about the Switch before we move on?
I think that's all we got because we covered backwards compatibility. You talked about the games, price point, or we kind of mentioned price point, which I don't want to hit on that too much until we have a little bit
Yeah.
more information about it. I think that's all I've got as far as the Switch 2 is concerned.
Well, so we obviously know that a couple of months ago, Sony canceled one of their live service games that they had spent years developing, and it had only been out for a couple weeks, and it had gotten canceled. And I can't remember the life of me, what the name of that game was called.
Oh no.
Um,
Hold on, I gotta look it up now. It's really gonna bother me.
I know, yeah. If you want to look it up, but anyways, while I'm going through this, so Sony has canceled yet again another live service game. It was a God of War spinoff to avoid a potential misstep like Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. There's not been a whole lot of details leak. Go ahead. Do you got a title for me? No, not yet. Okay.
Was it? Hold on, it was
Uh,
Concord, right?
yes, that's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Well, the rumor
so
was with that too. Secret Level was supposed to have an entire episode dedicated to that, and that's rumored to be an episode that got axed. So,
oh, well, that makes sense. I'm sure Sony wanted to pull that for sure. Fans eagerly await the next installment in obviously the God of War series, possibly a third game by Santa Monica Studios, or a PS5 remake of the original, which I don't want to see another remake from Santa Monica Studios. I don't need that. I also don't need a live service God of War game either.
no, I just need a third God of War game for that trilogy
Yeah, yeah, just
because the
which
first two have been fantastic.
I never finished the second one.
Ooh, it's.
Well, did you like it better than the first?
I won't say I liked it better than the first, but they are still both very good games.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of other live service games, what I find interesting because Sony bought Bungie, correct?
Believe so.
Yeah, I thought they did. I thought they acquired them because I felt like that happened shortly after Microsoft acquired a couple of the others.
Oh, yes. Sony Interactive Entertainment completed its acquisition of Bungie in July of 22, with Bungie still remaining multi-platform studio and publisher, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Bungie, the developers of obviously Destiny and I think the few original Halo games, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Before 343 Studios obviously came. So Bungie developers reportedly wanted to work on a single player game. However, that was shut down by leadership. So that's what I meant by when I said earlier that Bungie was told no by Daddy because they wanted to work on a single player game, but they said no, stay in your room and continue to work on another live service game. Which is interesting based on just what's been happening with the live service game stuff over at Sony. But despite cancellations of obviously multiple live service PlayStation projects, Bungie remains focused on the new live service game. And for those of you that don't know what that is, Bungie is concentrating on Marathon, which is going to be which are going to be their next live service game. Which, fun fact, in case you didn't know, Marathon was actually Bungie's first title back in the day. It was a very old game, but they're making obviously a new live service version of it. It looks like Destiny almost with a fresh coat of paint. It's kind of what it looks like.
The little teaser did look cool. I will give them that.
Well, they can do live service. I think Bungie has more than proven that they can do a live service game well in regards of polished grand scales. Now the stories may have not always landed, or what they did with like battle passes and stuff like that, but just the overall experience with Destiny I always typically thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah.
I sometimes wish that 3-person party would have been expanded just by one, for 4 when you were doing story player content. But when you cap it for 3 classes, it kind of makes it difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I will say my biggest harp on Destiny was over the course of how long did the Destiny from 1 to the end of 2 span? I mean, it was a decade almost, right?
Well, let's see. I don't even think we're done with Destiny 2, right?
Well, I thought the final shape was supposed to be the last installment, but I could be wrong.
So Destiny 1, God, I played that on 360. So good God, Destiny 1 released September 9th of 2014.
Okay. And now obviously you just take
2, and then
so we'll say 2024, right? So you're talking 10 years?
Yeah.
So in that 10 years, you never introduced a new class. You didn't really introduce any new enemy variants other than just different reskins of current. They just didn't release a whole lot of variety of new things in regards. I mean, they definitely added the subclasses and added new environments and stuff like that, but they didn't add any new classes. They didn't add any new, a lot new enemy variants, which is kind of frustrating.
So Destiny
What?
2 so is Destiny 2 the final shape, the last expansion? No, it is not the end of Destiny 2. The aftermath of Final Shape is being explored into 3 more expansions: Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy.
Ah, okay. Well, anyways, it
So
just in that
that's
decade, my only concern was just by the lack of classes and the lack of enemy variants.
yeah,
Outside of that, I loved everything.
we got new story. We just didn't get any, like you said,
Yeah,
subclasses were a good idea, but
yeah, yeah.
and make it where I can play
But
with
any,
3 other people.
yeah. So we'll see what Marathon's able to do that's a little bit different, from that. So I saw what you just deleted. I was like, I
Yeah,
forgot to delete. Thanks for not leaving that there, so I read that off. I appreciate
got
that.
you.
That'd be great. All right. So do you have any other news or any other topics to bring up before we move into some mystery questions, baby?
Not really this. I mean, I have a topic for you if we want to do kind of like my
Oh,
question for you for the week. But I mean,
perfect.
outside
Yeah,
of
let's.
news, not really, just because Switch 2 was kind of the big thing. And then
Yeah.
obviously the stuff with Bungie and stuff like that. But to kind of mention one more thing before we move on. But one, I wish they would let Bungie develop a single player game. I'd like to see what they could do. Um, 2, I think, I could be wrong. I don't want to speak for the masses, but I enjoy a good single player game. Not everything needs to be live service.
Right.
And there are, I'm sure you agree, but there are times that I would like to buy a game once and just have a full story versus buying it and then paying 40 to $60 for an expansion every couple months.
Yeah.
So,
I will tell you the best value. I feel like even though I haven't played that much of it, but from what I've gathered, uh, I really feel like the new Warhammer game, did a great job of feeling like you were. I mean, and I'm pretty sure most of the stuff on their roadmap is free. Like as far as
mhm.
some DLC and stuff, like that's probably the best value I've seen in a video game here recently in regards of like what you're what you get for what you pay for. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And
And I
like
also
you like you
say,
said, like on their roadmap, they were completely honest. Like they even had it mentioned that some were paid expansions, but the good majority was free. So
yeah, yeah. So I I will say though, early access for Path of Exile has been really good so far. It's been super. It's felt super polished for as
that's what I
little
was about
time
to
as
say.
it's
For
been
the
out.
little bit I've gotten to play, it's very polished.
Yeah, which makes me wonder what it's going to be like when it actually releases and what will be added. All right, well, let's go ahead and go into your topic of the week, and then I'll ask you my topic of the week, and then we'll get in a mystery question, and we'll close this baby out. So go ahead.
So mine's a relatively easy one, not a crazy topic, but so in light of Maddie, my wife, and I rewatching Friends, I wanted to ask you, and I was going to ask Justin too, but that's for you, Justin. Um, what is your favorite sitcom?
To
And you,
rewatch or just in general?
let's go rewatch and in general, and they could be the
Uh,
same one. I'm fine with that.
it's probably I can just give you that. So it's honestly probably The Office. It is cheesy as an answer as that is, because that's like what you expect everybody to say. I think the biggest reason is I was very late to The Office, to be honest with you. Like I only watched The Office. I think I started watching The Office for the first time. I watched through The Office 3 years ago, and it had
British
already been
version,
off
right?
the air. No, I've never seen the British version. But yeah, I was very late to The Office. The Office had already been off the air for years. And I went through it about 3 years ago. I just watched from start to finish. I did the same thing with Scrubs too, but Scrubs is just hard for me to want to go back and rewatch because I don't feel like it's aged as well as with The Office. Now I'm sure if Justin was here, he would annihilate me. But I would have to say The Office. But another show, I wouldn't say it's my favorite comedy, but another show I thoroughly enjoy watching, especially around the holidays for some reason, is usually when I start it, and I don't know why, is Chuck.
That's fair. That's fair.
I just love Chuck. I love the chemistry between the cast. I mean, the last season isn't the best, but overall I just love that show. The biggest reason is John Casey. I swear, man. I love John Casey.
That's
Little
fair.
Johnny, as he calls himself. But have you watched Chuck all the way through?
I have.
Yeah. Yeah. But that would be probably mine. Would be The Office, just because like it's one of those shows. But I will say Bob's Burgers is closely getting up there with The Office. I don't know if you've ever watched Bob's Burgers. I
Oh
am
yeah.
not an animated show person normally. And I think, and I may have already said this on the show before, but like I put off watching Bob's Burgers for the longest time because I lumped it in to all the other shows that I thought were just crude humor cartoon shows. I've never been like a huge fan of South Park. I've never been a huge like Simpsons is okay. I've never been a huge Family Guy person. I don't know why, because you know me, I have a fairly crude sense of humor at times, but for some odd reason, I
The
just
Family Guy
animated.
one surprises me about you for some reason. I don't know why,
Yeah,
but
I
that one
just
surprises me.
so therefore I put off Bob's Burgers because I just thought it was like all those other shows, and I couldn't have been more wrong. Like it's a pretty wholesome show, to be honest with you. It's like it reminds me of those shows like the 90s to early 2000 shows where it's a comedy throughout, but there's always like some sort of message like tied in at the end about like a good message. And it reminds me very much of those type of shows, and I really like it. So if you haven't, well, either a listener or viewer, if you haven't watched it, I would recommend checking out Bob's Burgers. Jared, if you haven't dove into Bob's Burgers, I would recommend it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
For me, you know this about me well, Travis. You know, probably know. I guess it was more of a sitcom at first, and then it kind of became a drom-com kind of TV show. But
Is
for
Ted
anybody out
Lasso?
there, no, 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 no.
Oh,
It's
okay.
much older than Ted Lasso.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
show that it's my favorite TV show of all time. It's a show I could watch. I couldn't tell you how many times I have watched it, and I could rewatch it again. I absolutely love the TV show MASH. And I looked it up. It is considered a sitcom, so don't judge me, Travis. I looked it up before I
No,
said that was my answer.
Mash is great.
Still the number one watched, like most people tuned in to the finale of that. It's the most watched thing in U.S. television history. So
So I'm gonna tell one on my girlfriend because I know she listens to this show every week. But and you'll appreciate this pick. But a show that I would have never guessed in a million years that she would have watched and rewatched. I guess she watched it a lot growing up with her dad. But do you remember in that this may have been around the MASH time, it may have been a little before MASH, but do you remember the show Hogan's Heroes?
I do remember Hogan's Heroes. I have watched it
She
all the way through.
she watches it like I think she does a rewatch every year of
It's
that show.
I like Hogan's Heroes, and um, this is a message to your girlfriend. I have a hard time watching it now after hearing about Bob Crane, like his
Oh, the way she just told me about how he went
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Yeah. I
his
was like, that
life
sounds a
choices are
little
very
dicey.
questionable. So
Beat to death with a tripod in some sort of shady motel doing
yeah,
sexual acts.
but yes, Hogan's Heroes is that's one I remember watching that one with my grandpa. Like it was I forget what the TV channel was. It was like the classic channel or something like that. But it was always every night. It was
Was
three
he the main
episodes of
star?
Mash. Oh yeah, yeah.
And one
He
of
was
them
Hogan.
and one was it him that was the survivor? He was an actual survivor of the Holocaust. There was somebody in the show that was actually a
Uh,
survivor of the Holocaust.
it
They
was the
wanted him to
French
do
guy.
the show. Yeah, they wanted him to do the show, and he told him the only way that I will do it is if at the end of every episode the Nazis just look like baffling buffoons. And
Yeah,
that's why, like,
it was the French
yeah,
dude.
yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I usually get that bit of information usually once a month, either from my girlfriend or my girlfriend's dad, because they forget they tell me. So,
But yes,
but yeah,
Hogan's
so
Heroes is great as well, but MASH is still my favorite. And
the
Hogan's
lead,
Heroes is on Amazon, just so you know.
yeah, that's where she watches it. I like the I can't ever remember his name, but the main guy in MASH,
Alan Alda.
I can't. Yeah, he's classic. I love
He's a,
him.
well, it's really cool. What I really like about that show too is the first season and a half, 2 seasons. It's very like crude, humorous. Like it's some jokes that you
Yeah.
watch them now and you're like, ooh, probably wouldn't have said that on TV.
Well, not only
But
that, but like it was ahead of its time because I don't know if there was any other. I mean, obviously there were some movies back in the day, like Some Like It Hot, where men were cross dressing and stuff like that. But they had a reoccurring character in MASH that was like
mm-hmm.
I don't not necessarily trans, but like cross dressing or
Cross dressing
I
and
don't
try to get
really.
out of the army. It was Klinger was cross dressing and try to get out of the army. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was like there's an episode. It was like the first time that a gay man had been shown on a TV show, like an openly gay man on a TV show,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was like they just did a lot, and it got to the point like it went from a comedy to more of a drama, and it's some of the episodes are dark, man. Like
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. What do you think Maddie's is if you had to guess? Let's put you under the spotlight so she can tell you you're wrong when she listens to this.
I mean, honestly, she's watching Friends right now, and she watches Friends quite a bit. She doesn't really watch a whole lot of TV or movies, to
Ah,
be 100%. Like, she's 100% YouTube, pretty much. But
yeah.
I'd probably Friends, or she does like, excuse me, she is a big fan of Bob's Burgers as well. So,
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a good guess. Friends,
I'll get yelled at this for this, but whenever she listens to this
yeah.
episode. But
All right, so my question is, this is a super random question. This isn't going to be anything that's a deep conversation, I don't think, but if you could bring one video game character into the real world to hang out with for a day, who would it be and why?
oh, video game character.
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, I was thinking about this. I would have to say probably I'm kind of split between two. One being Solid Snake,
Fair.
but I don't. But that'd be very intense to hang out with. But the
Yeah.
other one I think that would be super interesting, and this is probably I'm probably stealing a pick for you because you're such a history person. But Nathan Drake.
Nathan Drake's a very good call. I was gonna say my go-to. I'd probably say Arthur Morgan, Red Dead 2.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Nathan Drake is a very good call though as well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think for me, like if I want to have a good time and hang out and hear some cool stories, probably Nathan Drake. I just feel like Solid Snake would just be so intense, I just wouldn't know what to do with, you know? I
And
don't
just
know.
gonna you're gonna just start finding bodies hidden in trash cans and boxes everywhere, hanging out with him. So
Pretty much. Pretty much. But yeah, so that would be my pick. My question is though, like, how do you think they'd adapt to the world? I don't think Nathan Drake obviously would have any issues because he was around in
no,
modern
but
times. But
I think Arthur Morgan may have a heart attack.
yeah,
Uh,
he may suffer from a little bit of culture shock, I would imagine.
a little bit, a little tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you. Let's go ahead and answer.
Seven.
Let's do a miss. Nah, okay, right there between 1 and 50, you pick 7. Good job. Uh, well, this
It's,
kind of is
is the
fitting.
I was gonna say, is the question just if you could bring one video game character into real life, who would it be?
No, actually, it's if you had to live in the world of the last game you played, what would it be?
Oh, I'm screwed.
Is it PoE
Yeah.
or is it Balatro?
No, no. Last one I played was I just played Jotunheim before we got on here, so I'd be in Niflheim. So yes, I'm screwed.
Niflheim. Well, for me, I'd be in whatever hell Path of Exile's in. That's where I'd be.
You're screwed, dude.
And then before that, I'd be in post-apocalyptic Last of Us 2 world, which isn't great either.
Still screwed.
Yeah, why couldn't I have picked a good one like Red Dead or, something cooler than that, you know? Or GTA 5. No, that's
Technically,
not good.
aren't
All
you in
right.
the world of GTA 5? Technically,
I guess
kinda.
technically, yeah. I guess I'm pretty close. I'm in Hotlanta, so yeah, you right. All right, pick a number. We'll do one more. Pick one more between 1 and 50.
8.
8. Just one more up, huh?
You know, I'm gonna pick next week 9.
Oh, this is awkward. I don't know if you can even answer this question.
10 then. 10.
Okay, perfect.
I want to know. I want you to text me what
Oh, this
that
is a good
question
one.
was after this.
Okay, that's fine. Have you ever pretended to be sick to get out of something so you could play a game?
Yes.
100%. Have I also requested?
1000%.
Have I called off to play a video game before? Absolutely. Have I in doing so, did I pretend to be sick? Absolutely. Have I actually knew a game was coming out and request maybe a week off for vacation at some point in time?
Also, yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely done that before. Definitely, I wouldn't say I faked sick to like my parents or anything, but I definitely when Black Ops 2 came out, I begged my mom to take me to GameStop at like 2 in the morning or like midnight for the midnight release, and then she let me stay home the next day to play it all day. It was
Nice. Nice.
fantastic.
Yeah, I've definitely felt like I've done that during remember when midnight releases used to be huge.
Oh, I miss midnight release. I very rarely got to. I think I maybe experienced one midnight release.
Yeah. But I remember requesting a whole week off when I was deep in the WoW train. Like when I knew an expansion was about to drop,
Makes
I'd be like,
sense.
all right, I'll take a week off, baby, eating pizzas every day.
Playing
You
WoW.
know? Yeah, that's
I
right.
know you're
I
not a
don't
fan of South Park, but the only thing I can think of every time I hear anybody talk about WoW is just that
it's a
South Park
sword of a
episode. It's
thousand
like
truths.
he's just like, what do you mean? We finally did it. We beat the game. What do you mean? Now we can play the game.
That's true. Yeah, I tell you, I've tried to go back on occasions and try to get back into WoW, and I just have not been able to do it. I just can't for some reason. I don't know why. I don't. I think maybe I was looking through it at rose tinted glasses at one point in time, and now it just seems like a chore. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, we'll do one more. So you gonna do 11? Is that what you're gonna say?
I think I skipped a number. So I did 7. You said skip 8, and then we did 10. So I'm gonna go back to 9.
Okay. Oh, it's a good one. What was the first video game you ever remember playing?
Oh God,
That angle really shows off your mustache.
the lack of middle mustache is
Just fill it in with a Sharpie, baby.
got that reverse person we don't talk about going on.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's right.
especially
Unless you're
in light
Elon
of
Musk.
I was gonna say, especially in light of recent events.
Yeah, dude. I think he I was telling my girlfriend today, I was like, that's what happens when you let your inner thoughts win.
He just lost that battle.
Yeah. I think he just tried to do a modified like much love and it just went sideways.
Horribly wrong.
All right, so for
Uh,
me, oh, go ahead. Do you know?
I think like the first game that I have like a memory of playing is it's the dumbest thing ever. But the first game I can remember playing was on the PS2. It was the Polar Express game. It's like the first thing that comes to mind. It's either that or Medal of Honor, but I definitely think that probably that Polar Express came in my childhood before Medal of Honor did.
That makes sense.
And I think it's because I got a PS2 for Christmas and it just the timing kind of worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I'm trying to think here.
Well, you're old, so of course, yeah, like you're gonna.
That's that's fucked up, man. It really is.
But is it true?
Uh yes. Let's see here. For me, it was Super Mario Brothers 3 on NES. That's how
That's
old I am.
great
At
game
first I
though.
thought it was it at first I thought it was the original, but then I was like, wait, no, that's not true. But in North America it came out in 1990, so that's
No,
right.
I take that back. Polar Express was not the first game I played. I
Okay.
not the grandparents I grew up with. My other grandparents, they had a PS1, and my grandfather is a big outdoorsman. The first game I remember playing on
Deer
PS1. Do
Hunter?
you
Don't
know?
play.
Do
Oh.
you remember the Bass Fisherman game that on like that PlayStation used to have? And they had like the little like reel controller that you had where you could actually like reel in the line. That was the first game I remember playing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was PS1, right?
PS1, little
Let's see
gray
here.
pop-up middle console.
I'm looking here. I think somebody has. Oh, this person's got every PS1 fishing game released in North America, and they posted a picture. Let me see if I could share this. Hold on. Oh, share screen. I understand. Allow window. Here it is. Check this out. Let's bring it in. What do
Oh
you think of
my,
that?
which one was it? Which one was it? The
Mine was
bottom,
mine was the second row all the way to the right was the first one I remember playing.
mine was bottom left, like very bottom left.
Big bass fishing.
Big Bass Fishing.
Oh, dude, I used to play a ton of fishing games back in the
God,
day.
the nostalgia that just came back for and the old PS1 game cases. Oh,
I know, dude. I know. Yeah. I recently finished my Retro Pi build and went through. There's about 1,300 titles on there for PS1, and boy, I had a trip down memory lane. I tell you.
well, I still remember Crash Bandicoot was one that they had on the PS1 as well. And God, that I played that game for so long.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Now I'm just going down a rabbit hole and just getting sad.
Should we
I
bring
remember
it back up
Black
on stream
Bass.
so we can all just get sad together for PS1 games?
I know, right? That's crazy. All right. So I think. Oh, I was gonna ask you. To go off. To go off the last question.
Mhm.
About the first game you remember playing. What's the first game that you remember actually completing, like completely all the way through?
Oh God. Let me see if I can find the name of it. I remember what it is.
So I'll tell you mine while you're looking. So mine, I can't remember which was first, but I know the first two that I remember was Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. That was one, and Legends of Zelda: Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. That was another that I completed.
First game that I ever beat was on PS2, and like ever since I was young, big military history, like loved reading everything about stuff like that. But it's a game called Seek and Destroy. It was like a Japanese release title that came to the States, but all it was you just controlled like cartoon tanks. And that's the first game I remember beating because I remember like not being able to beat that game and finally just getting to the end one time. And like now looking back at it, it's like, well, why did it take me so long to beat that game? It's like, oh, because I was like 5 trying to play this game. So
Yeah, yeah. I was also trying to think about what was the first video game that I ever rage quit. But I don't honestly, I'm not a huge rage quitter, so I don't know.
neither am I. I think like I know the game. I could tell you the game I have the most hours in still to this day was Battlefield 4 on the 360. Like I played that game a lot.
I tell you the game I used to pour a ton of time into, and this is when I was younger, was Super Punch Out on Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
That's a game that I've had a few people watch me play and they're like, "Why are you so good at this game?" I was like, "Because
this is
for
6 years of my
hours
life.
and hours." Yeah. Like I could probably beat the first 3 people with my eyes closed, honestly. Like it's
Get
just
the
so
combos
fun.
down.
Oh yeah, dude. It's so good. Yes, Ellie, I hear you. But anyways, all right. I don't think there's any more questions that unless you want me to keep going, but I think that's good for this week.
I think that's good for this week.
Yeah, we got to save all 45 that's left for another week.
We'll knock those out
But I
next week
always
when
like,
Justin's here.
yeah, I always like talking about nostalgic stuff, honestly, just thinking back because I don't really spend a whole lot of time reflecting. I feel like a lot of times that's what this podcast turns into, but I don't really think about like video games in the sense of like the ones that I sunk a ton of time into when I was younger. You know what I mean?
We need to do an
Like
episode
I
like that. We
remember,
just need to go nostalgia trip and just pop it up on the stream up on here and be like, just like we did with the bass fishing games, where both of us just like,
yeah,
oh,
because I remember when I was 8, my uncle, I like how I said I never reflect, and now I'm just reflecting. But
reflecting.
one of my favorite memories growing up was as a gamer was so there's this really hard game on Super Nintendo called Super Ghost and Ghouls. It's just a side scroller platformer. It's very difficult.
I know Ghosts
Uh,
and Ghouls. Unfortunately, I know Ghosts and Ghouls.
Yeah, but there's this boss that you get to towards the latter half of the game. He's like a demon and he flies and he's got armor on or whatever. And my uncle had spent hours trying to beat him. And he told me that I was like, "Oh, let me try." He was like, "If you beat him, I'll give you $100." And this is back in like early 90s, right? So I actually ended up beating him and I never got my $100. But but years later, I think last year actually, my uncle finally made good on his bet and finally paid me $100 for beating that boss.
Unfortunately, it was
He,
then because that $100 is, and you should have got that with interest. That $100 is
I
not worth
should
the
have.
same now as it was.
I know. I could have bought a new console or something back then, but no, I just remember feeling so accomplished because I, at like 6 or 8 years old, beat something that my uncle that was probably in his late 20s, early 30s couldn't do. It was pretty cool, you know. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. All right, so let's go ahead and get into what we are looking forward to. What do you got coming up that you're looking forward to, my guy?
Two things. One, next episode of Severance. Super excited for that. Hopefully, get some more answers. But then number
That'll be
two is
Friday, yeah?
correct. Number
Okay.
two for me is not to steal yours, so not to kind of give away
Oh,
what
that's
yours
fine.
is. But we are almost officially out of the Super Bowl of my career field, as you called it.
and that'll be when the Super Bowl is over.
2 more weeks, and I am able to take vacation again. And I've already planned it out. I am taking a week off in February, and I'm very excited to sit at home and play video games. So
There you go. There you go. That'll be exciting. That'll be exciting. For me, mine is vacation at some point. Not sure when. I was planning on coming home in February, but depending on what happens with my ear, that may be pushed to March. I'm not sure yet. I'm also looking forward to hopefully finally getting what's going on with my ear resolved as well. I mean, I'm not looking forward to the steps it's going to have to go to get there, but I'm at least glad we're moving in some sort of direction.
you're getting
Um,
answers. So
yeah, for sure. Also interested to see the direction of Severance this season. I feel like it, like you said, I feel like it's had a strong start. I'm just curious. I feel like for every question they're going to answer, there's going to be more questions. You know what I mean?
I just want to know what's going
Um,
on with the goats, mate, from last
I
season.
know them goats, them goats. But outside of that, I think that's all I got coming up. Now this is going to be an interesting pick of the
I was gonna
week.
say, Travis, why don't you just tell everybody what both of our picks of the week are?
Well, I can tell you that both of our picks of the week. Now, let me preface this by saying that one of these two individuals have put probably close to 30, 40 hours in, maybe not that long. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I don't know. I don't know what my Steam time is versus my time on PlayStation. I'm not real sure. But anyways, our pick of the week is Path of Exile 2. I know for me, I am thoroughly enjoying it. I think for Jared, and I'll let him speak his truth, but I think it's because I kept trying to tell him, and other people had kept trying to tell him to try it, and he didn't like the first one, so I think he immediately wrote off the second one. And I think the reason it's his pick is he is pleasantly surprised by the fact that he even enjoys it.
You would be correct. The bosses in that game so far, like I told you, I've only fought
It's
three
not
bosses so far.
handholdy.
It kind of just your
It's harder than
tutorial.
Diablo.
Oh, 100%. Your tutorial is, do you want to use WASD or your mouse to move? This is how you attack, and then you get a few little hints here or there of how to use like upgrades and stuff. Other than that, it's like good luck.
Yeah, yeah. I will say it's very reminiscent of me for like Diablo 2 is kind of what it reminds me of.
That's
Um,
that's actually a really fair comparison, I
uh,
think.
which I think is probably one of the best, if not the best Diablo that was ever made. Uh, but I will say the skill trees are the craziest things I've seen in probably any video game.
Travis, for
I
people who
was,
watch, how about you just go ahead and pop up one of the skill trees on stream for us there, and let's all just take a look at this because this is probably one of the most overwhelming things I've seen in a video game, to be
yeah,
100%
so I'll
honest.
actually I'll actually pull up what I'll do is I'll pull up
Your build guide.
yeah, I'll pull up my build guide on MaxGG and I'll just take you. Have you looked up are you doing one on MaxGG?
I think mine's on.
The reason I say the way they do the talent tree stuff on MaxGG, because the problem is a lot of times they don't tell you at what order to put stuff in at what time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But let me show you. But let me show you this. Hold on, I'm getting it pulled up now. Okay.
yeah, mine's max
Let me
roll is where my guide's from.
yeah, that's yeah, maxroll.gg. Yeah.
Oh my god, I got you.
My guy. Okay. But let me pull this up for our viewers. I understand. Let's see here.
This is
Yeah, here we go.
insane. Like it's still.
So let's bring it in here. I'm gonna but I don't know if you noticed at the top, but you can click back so you can tell what order to put these in.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so like each one of these is a skill for a different. So all these branches are basically for different classes. And then you have inside the middle, which you haven't got there this far, but
I have not got to this point yet.
when you make your specialization, you'll get to pick from one of two specializations, and then it gets its own talent tree. But each one of these little dots is either a passive or a spell of some kind. But yeah, this is the whole thing. And you can actually, if you look at this build being all the way out, is you're actually pulling some abilities from different classes, which is wild to think about. But yeah, it's the craziest thing that I've seen in a video game talent tree wise. It's wild.
And this
Especially if
also
you get
isn't
down
to
here and look at
mention
some of
the.
these. Look at this. It's like you just have all this.
It's
It's
also not to
crazy.
mention that this is just the passive and ability skill tree. It's not counting your gems and their abilities and your abilities
Yeah.
and your upgrades and
So
stuff like
like
that.
what he's referring to is like, here's your abilities, right? Let me zoom in here for our viewers here. Yeah. So like, here's like your abilities. And then each one of these is like some sort of modifier, right? Which is crazy. It's, it's absolutely insane.
Then obviously don't forget about gear upgrades and all that fun stuff as well,
Yeah.
which
I
also have
will
gem
say that
sockets.
my only complaint about the game to this point is the reason it's very reminiscent of Diablo for me is because the inventory is very old school.
And very
Very,
small.
yeah. Yeah. I hope they at least update it so you can hit a button that it just automatically at least realigns all your stuff to accommodate the most space. That would be nice, but um, but yeah, so far so good. But yeah, that is our pick of the week just because, like I said, for me, it's just been very good. It's only been in early access for less, like right at a month, maybe,
I
but
think
it's super
so.
polished. They came out with their first big patch already. And I think they're also introducing some new classes, possibly a druid, which I'm excited to hear about, um, and some other classes as well. So, what do you think about the way that you picked your character at the beginning when they have them all hanging there?
Very surprised.
I know. If you well, you'll get to a place at the end of Act 1 where you'll go back and you'll actually see the podium where the people were hanging.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So, which we may end up playing some Path of Exile tonight, maybe.
Maybe.
So, all right. Well, anything else to add before we pop off here?
Think that's all I got.
All right. Well, until next time, we appreciate you for listening and watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and leave us a review and share us with your friends. But until next time, peace. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Nerds with Mics. If you enjoyed today's deep dive into all things nerdy, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please make sure not to forget to leave us a review wherever you listen or watch. Your feedback always helps us grow. And if you know a fellow nerd that would love the show, share it with them. Until next time, stay nerdy, stay awesome, and keep those mics on.